Okay, do you believe it's acceptable for illegals who commit heinous crimes be released back into the public instead of being detained and deported? Mayor Adams, yes or no?
Anyone break a crime?
Yes or no? This is not hard. Yes or no?
Anyone that break a crime should be detained.
Okay, Mayor, yes or no?
They should be deported.
Okay, Mayor.
Any individual that
Yes or
causes
no?
harm
Yes or no?
breaks
Okay,
the
Mayor
law
Wu?
should be held accountable.
This is why you have 6% approval rating, because you suck at answering questions.
It's Nancy Mace questioning some of the mayors yesterday during a U.S. House Oversight Committee hearing on sanctuary jurisdictions. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. There you heard some of the questions from Nancy Mace, including to Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who was there testifying yesterday. It's Illinois in Focus. Get the podcast where you get podcasts, but wake up with us each and every weekday morning live for the live program. I'm Greg Bishop, and let's get into it with James Comer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, laying out why he thinks this hearing is important and what he hopes to get out of it.
These reckless sanctuary policies also force federal immigration officers to go into local communities to apprehend criminal illegal aliens. If sanctuary cities were to simply communicate and work with federal immigration authorities, then federal agents could arrest criminal illegal aliens in a secure environment like a state or local jail. Instead, they have to risk their own safety and public safety by having to go into uncertain, dangerous circumstances just to make arrests. Sanctuary cities make us all less safe and are a public safety nightmare.
Keep in mind, the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois face a federal lawsuit from the U.S. Department of Justice over the sanctuary policies, including the Trust Act and the Way Forward Act, two separate Illinois laws that essentially say that local and state law enforcement can't cooperate with immigration enforcement for criminal detention orders, or for civil detention orders. They can work for criminal detention orders, but not for civil detention orders, just to make sure that that's clear. And then you have the Way Forward Act, which took that further and said that police can't ask about somebody's immigration status or report the immigration status to federal enforcement officials. So those are the jurisdictional sanctuary policies that are being challenged in federal court. And we'll get some response to the latest that we talked about yesterday with the Pritzker administration filing a motion to dismiss that challenge out of federal court. But let's get back to the hearing yesterday with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson joining mayors from Boston, Denver, and New York. But Johnson, in his opening statements, defended what he said was Chicago being a welcoming city.
We still have a long way to go, but sensationalizing tragedy in the name of political expediency is not governing, it's grandstanding. Every violent crime is devastating, but scapegoating entire communities is not only misleading, it is unjust, and it is beneath us. So let me be clear. Chicago's Welcoming City Ordinance and our other laws and policies do not lead to more crime. They do not prevent cooperation with federal law enforcement on criminal matters. And we do not harbor criminals. We arrest them.
So Johnson, again, saying that the city does not harbor criminals. They arrest them. That goes to the issue of the difference between a civil detention order for an immigration violation versus a criminal detention order for an immigration violation. And you can see where that line is. And how this is going to play out in the courts, I guess we'll watch, but obviously a lot of politics in the House committee with Nancy Mace trying to get yes or no questions answered, and had a little spat with Brandon Johnson, as we saw earlier.
Okay, do you believe it's acceptable for illegals who commit heinous crimes be released back into the public instead of being detained and deported? Mayor Adams, yes or no?
New York City.
Anyone break a crime?
Yes or no? This is not hard. Yes or no?
Anyone that break a crime should be detained.
Okay, Mayor. Yes or no?
Mike Johnston.
They should be deported.
Denver.
Okay, Mayor.
Any individual that
Yes or
causes
no?
harm
Yes or
and
no?
breaks
Okay,
the
Mayor
law
Wu?
should be held accountable.
This is why you have 6% approval rating, because you suck at answering questions.
So a lot of the other questions coming towards Johnson were about the welcoming city ordinance that he says has been around for 40 years, and he talks about Chicago's formation and goes into a long history of making sure that people are safe in their communities and that they feel comfortable reporting to police if they're victims of crime. One of the rationale for having the welcoming city and the sanctuary state was that migrants are victims of crime, and they need to be able to go to law enforcement and report a crime, but they may be fearful that they'll be asked about their immigration status. Here's Johnson defending the city's ordinance.
Okay, do you believe it's a...
And let's go to this clip over here. That's what it's like being your own producer for a show.
The type of coordination that happens between our local law enforcement and our communities is paramount to building trust and keeping our communities safe. The ordinance, as well as the state law, the Illinois Trust Act, which was passed with bipartisan support and signed by the Republican governor, Bruce Rauner, we do not permit our local law enforcement from engaging in any federal matters. With a criminal warrant, our city and our state will cooperate with the federal government, but without a criminal warrant, our local law enforcement focuses in on local issues to keep the people of Chicago safe.
So again, that's the rationale that Johnson has for defending his city's sanctuary status. Byron Donaldson, Florida congressman, also apparently getting the support from Donald Trump to run for Florida governor. He had some direct questions about the taxpayer cost of all of this, which has not been cheap.
Mayor Johnson, Chicago. How much has the city of Chicago spent on illegal immigration?
If you're referring to the 2022 up to 2024 of the buses coming from Texas, roughly the same percentage of the state of Texas, about 1% of our overall budget.
What is that? Because we don't have the city's budget in front of me. Numbers.
It's 1%, and if you want the actual calculation, we can make sure someone...
You're the mayor. You don't have the math in front of you?
It's 1% of the overall budget over the last 4 years.
That's why you're a failing mayor.
Which is
Mayor
the same
Adams,
number that
how
was
much did the
sent from
city
us
of New York
from the
actually
state
spend
of
on
Texas.
illegal immigration? Mayor Johnson, I already asked you, you don't have a hard number. And if you don't have a hard number, you're not running your city well.
Wasn't the only accusation that Johnson wasn't running the city well. There were plenty of other accusations, including from Peoria Congressman Darren LaHood in the House Oversight Committee, asking Johnson questions about crime, but also pointing towards Johnson's approval rating.
Okay, and you look at the level of violent criminals, sexual offenses, and drug dealers.
All violent crime is down in Chicago. In fact, just this year alone, Congressman, respectfully, there's a 20% decrease in violent crime in the city of Chicago.
I don't agree with your statistics.
Well, it's not a matter of whether or not you agree with it. It's a matter of whether it's a fact.
Let me reclaim my time, because I thought you might do this. And when I hear your answer, no one in this room should be surprised that your approval rating is 6.6%. Now, that's not just me saying this. Newsweek article, the least popular politician in America is Brandon Johnson. So, recent poll, M3 Strategies conducted this February 20th to 21st, showed that Mayor Johnson has a 6.6% approval rating, the worst showing of any political figure in the country's history.
We've invested $1.25 billion for housing and economic development, particularly for Black Chicago. It's the largest investment in the history of Chicago. 45% increase in youth employment, particularly for Black and brown children. I will not apologize for my investments in the people of Chicago.
So the mayor, again, defending his sanctuary policies there. This is all happening as, again, the U.S. Department of Justice has a lawsuit against the state of Illinois, the county of Cook, and the city of Chicago over sanctuary policies. They're looking to overturn things like the Trust Act and the Way Forward Act, and you've got the city's Welcoming City Ordinance that's a target of this litigation as well. Yesterday, we reviewed the filings in court of the Pritzker administration, the Attorney General, the Cook County, and City of Chicago, their court filings to dismiss that challenge from the Department of Justice. If you missed that video, be sure to go check that out. But let's just look again really quick here at the actual filing for that motion to dismiss. State of Illinois and Governor Pritzker's rule motion to dismiss. They say that the government filed this lawsuit, 3 challenges, 3 complaints. They say all the claims asserted against the state of Illinois fail as a matter of law and should be dismissed with prejudice. Count 1 should be dismissed because no federal law preempts the Trust Act or Way Forward Act. Both of these Illinois statutes effectuate Illinois' sovereign choice to opt out of using state and local law enforcement resources to assist with federal civil immigration enforcement. They then use the 10th 10th Amendment as an argument and go even further to say that the governor, anyways, is the wrong person to sue for this because it's actually the Attorney General that implements and enforces this. So we'll see how this goes in court. But I got State Senator Chapin Rose, Republican from Mahomet, to respond. And I just gave him a quick overview of this motion to dismiss and what it means. And here's what he had to say in reaction.
Greg, imagine what would happen if, like, our state helped. Okay? 81% of the American public wants these illegals out of the country. And yet, here comes, Kwame Rule and J.B. Pritzker, who are doing the exact opposite of what the American people are demanding, okay? This very morning, I sat in a committee in this building where the Supreme Court's asking for another $750,000 of the state taxpayers' money just to fund interpreters in court, okay? Again, why are we putting up a homing beacon with free health care, free food, free lodging, free everything to come to Illinois when 81% of the American public wants these folks gone, okay? I don't get it. I mean, who do these people think they're serving? I mean, the people have spoken. The people have spoken loudly. They're done with this. And yet here comes J.B. Pritzker and Kwame Rule once again defending illegal aliens, and they're not even taking care of the people who are already here, the citizens of Illinois. I mean, it's just confounding. Maybe these guys should start helping and get out of the way. I mean, either help or get out of the way. But this kind of dilatory nonsense, I don't get it. I mean, I just hope Tom Homan and the rest of them get in here as fast as they can.
So Rose went on to discuss the safety implications of this particular delay of, the state not helping federal law enforcement enforce immigration law.
Again, how completely ridiculous as it is to say that we have someone in custody in a county jail in Illinois who is an illegal alien, and the county sheriff isn't even allowed to tell ICE to come pick them up. That's insane. Instead, they're going to be let go back onto the streets of everybody watching this right now to make those streets less safe, to commit more crimes in Illinois, because J.B. Pritzker and Kwame Rule didn't get the memo that 81% of the American public wants these people gone. They want them gone yesterday. So either lead and help President Trump or get out of the way. But stop this dilatory nonsense where all you're doing is delaying, and putting the people of Illinois at serious risk and harm.
Again, that delay tactic, Rose says, is problematic. Again, when you have the state telling local law enforcement to not cooperate with federal immigration enforcement.
That's what this is all about. I mean, you know these guys, they're dug in. They think they've got some moral superiority about it. And the reality is 81% of the American people want to go a different direction. They were clear on that point, okay? Stop. Get out. Just get out of the way. Do nothing. Back down. Let ICE, again, under the federal Constitution, immigration is a federal purview, okay? Let them do their jobs. And whatever you do, stop telling our local sheriffs that they're not allowed to talk to ICE. We've already got the person detained in jail and they can just hand them off safely. Why would you put that bad guy or bad gal back on our streets to hurt someone else?
So this is really going to be in the courts, right? It's all going to come out as far as the arguments back and forth and what the district court's going to decide to do. Either they agree that it needs to be dismissed, or they agree that it needs to be debated, or they move forward and say, yeah, we're going to dismiss, and then it goes to the appeals courts, and then from there does it go to the U.S. Supreme Court. So I think this is going to be a long, protracted battle, but ultimately, one of the arguments is that the state says they're not required or mandated to use state and local resources to assist federal immigration officials. Rose responding to that argument.
They have an obligation with an ICE detainer, okay? An ICE detainer, by the very word detainer, means hold. Hold that person until ICE can get to your jail and pick them up, okay? That is a federal obligation. It is a federal requirement on our law enforcement to not do it. But it defies logic. It defies common sense that these guys would be arguing the opposite. If you've already got a bad guy in custody, then hand him over. Why would you let him back on the streets of Illinois to terrorize somebody else?
Anything else, Ryan?
No, thanks,
so there
man.
you go. That's State Senator Chapin Rose. Conversation I had with him at the Capitol yesterday, briefly, just about the reaction to the Department of Justice's lawsuits against the state of Illinois and the state of Illinois wanting to dismiss that. A lot more to come on that story, no question. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Get the podcast where you get podcasts and get the newsletter in your inbox each and every weekday morning with Illinois in Focus Daily.